Hello, spiritual classroom. This is Dr. Annette Feravich getting the camera a little close and personal for you with the classroom. I have a business that is healthy mind, body, spirit, and you can get me on the internet at www.healthymindbodyspirit.net. But this is really where you get the most up-to-date information about what I'm doing because I'm doing it live 3 days a week. So you get like everything right here on the website. I can't keep up to date on is, as much as I'd like because, my crew, this crew over here, I do not have a Wally. I don't have a Wally. I don't have I keep saying they're just not as dependable as other crews. What are you going to do when you pay them, nothing? Okay, so we are here in the spiritual classroom and I had to think about where are we going to go next first. So I'm going to start with where are we going to go next? And so this was, a little puzzling. And I literally thought for a moment that I was going to cut out the spiritual classroom because so much of what I'm talking about in all of the other classrooms overlap with the spiritual classroom. And I'm always saying in spiritual, this, whatever, as if for some reason what I was saying in the spiritual classroom wasn't worthwhile. But no, of course it was. But like even this theory over here that I've got of broaden and build over here, this theory is a psychological theory. So I was thinking that many of these theories we can cover in the other classrooms because I bring psychology into understanding the spirit. Again, as I have said, so the physical world, bringing the spiritual world, bringing the spiritual world, start over here, bring the spiritual world into the physical world, right? That's what we're doing. But no, this is its own unique program over here. It's its own unique classroom here as well. And so I'll tell you what I decided. And I thought about this actually. I'll tell you how I decided it. So let me turn that off for a sec. So I'm reading in my early bird classroom this Reader's Digest Bible collection. And I just started it. So join me if you want, stories that are easy peasy to understand. And so the first one is in the beginning, right? But it's called Wonderfully Enough. And I've brought this up now. So 3 classrooms have seen this book. There was an evening and there was a morning. So this is in the beginning, right? But here I'm going to read it to you. And the pictures are just outstanding, aren't they? They really are outstanding. Join me so you can see these pictures too. But here it says, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. The earth was empty and covered by night, and the Spirit of God floated over the waters. Well, I always, make a claim, if you haven't heard it before, that we really don't have ADHD. This is the way that the mind is supposed to work. And what they're trying to get you to do is be more like a soldier, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics, right? Instead of thinking creatively like we were really meant to think, right? I mean, really, if you take a look at just even this page and the creativeness of the title here, the shortness of each of this to make it understandable, and then the beauty of this, and then the same thing with the next page, the beauty of that, keeping it short. It gets a little bit longer here so we're not missing the message, right? Because the message is important. So there's enough words there, but really, I mean, look at even on this side with all those words, they've got this beautiful moon over here. It's so pretty, right? But so what I'm saying is we certainly are naturally drawn to this kind of stuff and not drawn to being a computer. Ha ha. Ha ha. Communist countries were not made to be computers, whether you believe it or not. So, but what drew me to this and this idea then was the quote here that says, the earth was empty and covered by night, and the Spirit of God floated over the waters. Now, I did say something to my early birds class, right? It's not a kindergarten. It could be for any age because we have a lot of people who don't know how to read because that's the way our educational system has left them, trying to dig money into their private whatever nonsense instead of really putting the money where it belongs. So anyway, the Spirit of God floated over the waters. And that reminded me of a quote in Job, which said that God saw Satan floating over the waters to and fro, looking for, and I went and I looked it up, and I'm not going to be able to say it right now, right? Looking for, he was looking for trouble is what he was looking for. Same thing that David was doing on top of the roof. Looking for trouble is what he was doing. Okay, so I don't know. It's just so interesting to me, isn't it? Just floating over the waters looking for trouble. Guess what you're going to find? You're going to find trouble. But it got me to thinking about this book that I bought, which is by, not Blase, but isn't that funny, right? Blaze, right? Because as we learned in Early Bird, that E is silent. So what a great name, right? Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal. Now, I read the preface to this, and that's almost all I read. But what he did, and I can't even tell you, I would guess it was like 1600, something like that, when he wrote this, is what I would guess. It's obviously, this book is obviously not from the 1600s, and somebody else put it together. So that's what I wanted to tell you about this, is that, so this is from notes. So he was doing this for his own purposes. So this was not to present the world with a different Bible, nor am I doing that. I'm only showing you, obviously, my interest in this, and it's a really great interest. I'm a little disappointed, unfortunately, in the quality of the photos that are in here. You just think that the photos would be better quality. I'm not quite sure why they're not, but there's probably a good explanation for it. I just don't know why they're not, or why I don't think that they are, or whatever. But you can take a look at them. It doesn't matter. The point here is this, is that what he did was, he, in his notes that somebody else pulled together in, I think, the early 1900s or something like that. So much further past when it was written. This is a first edition book. But I'm not seeing the date on here. Why don't I see a date on here? See, that's a problem. You know, somebody says, you're looking for a first edition book. Do I have a first edition book for you? That's kind of what I think has happened here. Because why wouldn't their color plate photographs are by Massimo Listri? But I should still have a date in here. There should be a copyright for this book, and there's not. So my guess is that this is a fake. But I didn't pay a lot of money for it, right? It's kind of like, you know, how many fakes that they're actually literally painting of, like Da Vinci paints and stuff like that over there, where else in China, because they have no creativity, because they don't see the world like this. They only see the world through somebody else's eyes. And that goes to show you the power of creativity and what we lose when we're not creative, just simply in that picture, and taking those words, in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth was empty and covered by night, and the Spirit of God floated over the water, and turned it into that crazy beautiful picture. Well, in a communist country, just to cut to the chase, sometimes in a communist country, I'm going to pick up a book like this and they're going to tell me that it is a first edition, but it's not going to have some of the qualities that I feel like it should have. Like, look at these photos, are horrible. Look at that photo. You're taking a photo of a beautiful church with stained glass. How is it that you can't get that photo better than that? Of beautiful stained glass, of art? You can't get a better photo than that. So that was my first indication that it, it's not worth a lot of money, but I didn't spend a lot of money on it. So I got, what I paid for, without a doubt. But the paper is beautiful, and it probably is a first edition of this book. It probably is. The paper is magnificent, and the print is unbelievable with beautiful large print. And I bought and this linen covered, book. Who knows what's underneath here though, right? Who knows? Could be something interesting though. Anywho, could be. Who even knows? Those pictures aren't worth a lot though. But even things like, so a good book doesn't have even edges there because they used to cut the paper, right? And when you cut paper, you wouldn't have an even edge. But that looks pretty evenly uneven. Anyway, so I just discovered that this probably isn't what I thought it was. Just now, as I opened it up, although I had my doubts, I am now, even more sure that it's not what I thought it was. Not that I thought that it came from, 1600 or whatever. Not that it was. And not that it's not a beautiful piece, and not that I paid a lot of money for it, because I didn't. So that's good. But really, I'm looking at it, just a real beautiful piece of art. A book that's just a beautiful piece of art is what it is, right? So, look at that. I mean, it's just, hold on, let me put it up so you can see it a little bit more. It's just stunning. It's just a stunning piece of art. The words, the pictures, not so much so. But what he did was, and there's an introduction here about it. So I read the introduction. And what he did here was that he put the life of Jesus in chronological order. So we know each one of the books of the Bible is in, the books of the Gospels, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Each one of those Gospels we know is an order of Jesus's life. With the preface in John, there's a little preface in John. So, which is a wonderful little preface in John, which I read in the early bird classroom. I totally read it in the early bird classroom. And I'm going to go get it right now, and not right now, but I'm going to get it and read it. And it's just such a wonderful quote, and we're going to read it again. But so he took the life. So each one of the books is, Jesus's life. But I think it's only Matthew that talks about Bethlehem and being born in a manger. I don't think Mark does. I'm not sure if Mark repeats everything that Matthew says, or if Mark has any new information. Probably different miracles. There may be different miracles that Mark remembers. Yeah, because there were different miracles. So that's the point there. There were different miracles at different times. And the loaves and fishes, for example, that was getting close to Jesus's death, right? We have 3 years of his ministry. How did that go? So that's what Pascal did in this book. And it's not, again, it wasn't meant for publication, so it wasn't meant to be a scriptural reference. He put this together for himself, and after his death, long after his death, somebody published those papers All right. So that's what he did. And so what an unbelievable thing, right? An unbelievable thing. And so what I thought I would do is I was again thinking, am I going to maybe just present, the practical side of scripture and always be pointing to the spirituality of everything, our daily lives, and cut out our spiritual classroom. I was thinking that. And then I was like, seriously, this is the reason why you're doing it? You're doing it so that people get to know God. The whole reason I'm doing all of this is so that you get to know God. And truly, from the very beginning, even psychology, what did I study in psychology? Positive psychology, which we're learning about what I believe to be God's traits. And so if you learned about God's traits, and this is what I said from the beginning, I said, I would never be without a job, and then here I am without a job. How funny is that? Ha ha! Okay, so what Pascal did was put the scripture in order, Jesus's life in order. Now, I haven't read this yet, so I'm going to take a look at it, but it inspired me to present to you the Bible because it's been presented in so many ways. But what I've learned, I don't know how I'm going to present it, but what I do know is I've got the idea that I would like to see the Old Testament in order. I've always wondered that. That's one of the reasons why the Old Testament can be confusing as well, because there are parts of it that repeat itself. And you're just like, well, gosh, I read that like 3 books ago. What the heck is going on over here? And then it places doubt in the New Testament, because do you know that there's 2 stories of the loaves and fishes in the New Testament? 2 distinctly different stories because they're both in the same book. I think they're in Matthew again. I'm pretty sure loaves and fishes, are in Matthew. I'm pretty sure. And do you know that the Red Sea was parted twice? Once by Moses and once by Joshua. So there is this sort of, maybe perfection is the 3rd time. We're going to see all those things the 3rd time. Maybe people have been waiting for the miracles. We said miracles are supposed to return at the end of time. Really, how interesting. But I'm a teacher. I'm here in the classroom. And so what I would like to do is I'm going to start with Job. And Job is the most difficult chapter to understand. What made me think of that? It made me think of the fact that, again, this picture and the words that said, and because the word in scripture is that, and I'm not saying one and the same, I'm saying that it's so interesting that shortly thereafter, the beginning had to be Lucifer traveling to and fro. And that's where the Bible starts. From what we understand, from what I've been told, from what I learned, and I'm taking it on faith that it's true since I've heard it from many different sources, in chronological order, Job comes first. And again, I find that so fascinating to have. And these are the revelations that you get in sort of my mind is time. What I'm saying, hearing is time and space. These are the revelations that you get in time and space. When you spend the time, right, and you begin to think about things in the physical world and the spiritual world as well. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. The earth was empty and covered by night, and the Spirit of God floated over the waters. And shortly thereafter, Job's story. I don't know, because I have to look at the chronological order. Wouldn't it have to be Adam and Eve? I don't know. All right, so that's what we're going to do next. I said I was going to prepare you or tell you or think about what we were doing next. And so one choice was to eliminate the spiritual classroom because we're doing other things, but Seriously, I said this is the reason why I'm doing it. So we're not eliminating the spiritual classroom. We are going to Job, the most difficult book in the Bible. And I will tell you this, I studied Job in depth. I have not studied every book in the Bible in depth by any means at all. Actually, in fact, let me put it this way. I've studied very few in depth. I've studied many on the surface, right? Very few in depth. Job is the one I've studied in depth because it is the hardest book in the Bible to understand, which might be the reason why it actually looks like Job. And I thought about that yesterday. I'm like, seriously, no, that is the truth. Because Job is a job. It's a job. He got jobbed. He got whatever that word like that would be. He got that. That would be similar in spelling as well as meaning. He got it. He got it. He got it. And yet still believed. And so what is there to learn about Job? And I always wanted to learn something about Job, and now it's very clear to me what Job's message was. It's very clear. But we've got to get to today's message as always. Where are we? 1 o'clock. Excellent. Excellent time. Okay. I'm coming up with the old, because all I need is this one. So that's an old. Oh, yeah. Seriously. It's so old. Oh, because we're on classroom. Never mind. There we go. But the wrong date there. Yeah, the wrong date only because all I need is, seriously, this one. This is what I need. Okay, so this, if you remember, is our broaden and build. It's a theory, right? And it's a theory by Barbara Fredrickson, and it's a theory about what really happens when we pay it forward, right? So as Christians, we might understand that, or as a spiritual person, you might understand that what you do has a payoff, right? And if I do something for somebody else and it pays off for that person, well, it might also then that person might do something for somebody and then it pays off for that person, right? So, and then again, and again, and again, right? And so the one start, the beginning, the genesis of that nice deed, right? It pays forward, but we also can use terms like multiplicative, like the rewards are multiplicative. It really doesn't happen that it's 1 + 1, right? Because then that is where it would stop. But then, so there's 2 people and now there's 4 people or whatever, right? It jumps. All the people that are being helped jumps in exponential ways. That's another way to put it. Multiplicative and exponential ways. They're not just at 1 + 1. All of a sudden, right? And that's what pay it forward means. All of a sudden we're helping people. All of a sudden it blossomed into many people being helped. I'll finish that thought. All of a sudden, if I go on to another one, all of a sudden it blossomed into many people being helped, right? We call that in psychology, Barbara Fredrickson. There are probably other people who call it different things. Resilience is another one, which Emmy Werner calls it resilience. But Barbara Fredrickson calls it an upward spiral. And so demonstrating, as we do in this classroom, we demonstrate the physical world, the spiritual world in the physical world, right? Or however you want to say that, right? What we're trying to do is demonstrate the spiritual world in the physical world. A spiritual concept would be this upward spiral. That would be a spiritual concept, right? How do we get this idea of all of these good deeds blossoming like that? How does that happen? Remember, the mechanism by which this occurs. That's what this classroom is about. So that's why we always build science into it, right? That's why I kind of was like debating, do we need this class or not? Because what we're looking at always is the mechanism by which this occurs. This spiritual event, this, spirituality, me experiencing God, you experiencing God through me, whatever it is in this sort of, positive psychology way, whatever your lingo is for this, we're going to call it an upward spiral for the purposes of this moment in time explanation. Okay? All right. So, again, we said we started with positive emotions, but remember, this is cyclical. That means there's a cycle here. So it's in motion. It's already in motion. It's been in motion already. So there is no start. So where did the positive emotions come from? They came as a result of the upward spiral, right? We're just going to take some time to explain what that really means. Okay, so we have positive emotions. Why? Because there was an upward spiral. That's the reason why. So what did this consist of? So yesterday I talked about thought action repertoires, and I focused on that picture right there. So the picture number 2, go remember who taught me repertoire. I actually do remember who taught me that. It was Scott O. I don't want to give people's last names because you don't know. But yeah, taught me thought action repertoires. And oh, by the way, maybe I think you kind of look okay in blue, but just okay in blue. Very skeptical of your blue. Just saying. Now I'm losing my signal a little bit. See, I say these things and all of a sudden I lose my signal. That happened. And the last class, it dropped completely when I was saying some maybe, I don't know, questionable things. On identity. Din. Okay, so why did I go there? I'm not sure. Okay, so repertoire. Repertoire was taught, that word repertoire. I have a bad signal right now. Yeah, I'm watching the way that it's being cut as well, because that's always like all of a sudden you're like in this precarious, framed whatever. Oh, yeah, there's a nice one. Yeah, and I could actually. Oh. Okay, well, I see I have a green signal, which means it's going to keep bouncing back and forth for a little while, but I'm going to keep going since I have a green signal over here. Sorry about that. It's the best way that I can tell that you're actually getting the message that I want you to get. And I have to be kind of concerned about that message, especially since we have a bunch of communists who are sitting over there doing chop, chop, chop on the messages. Okay, all right, so excellent signal. I see I'm working over there. No problemo, it looks like. All right, so repertoires is the word that I learned. And what's a repertoire? A repertoire is part of your if you were to have your character traits in a package, let's say, that would be a repertoire, right? So you might have like Carrot Top. He has a box of all of his aids for his comedy, right? That is a repertoire, all right? A repertoire. I'm thinking about Carrot Top, and it's like, is that a good example for people? Because that guy, holy smokes, what is going on with that guy? But let's not go there. No, but seriously, since this is a spiritual classroom, somebody comment on what is going on with that guy. Some serious help, really, some serious help, and you can do it in your house and watch these videos is what you could do, honestly, because if you watch the last video, you could hear that there is we're doing this in chunks. We're just doing it in chunks, a little bit at a time, whatever we can take. Same thing with me. A little bit at a time, whatever I can take. Same thing with me. Okay, so repertoires. So it might be Carrot Top's box of goodies that he has for his act. That is in essence like a repertoire. Usually we use it more in theory, right? So it's not something usually you can touch, like you can touch the stuff in Carrot Top's, whatever you call that, evidence box is what I'm thinking. Mhm. But who even knows? I don't even know. Why would I say that? Woo! That was God revealing something to me. That's what that was, in case you were wondering. Okay, so repertoire is more of a theoretical concept. All right. So we have these thought, action repertoires, a grouping of them, right? And you could probably pick them out. Like the one over there is disgust. So there's an automatic facial expression that goes with disgust, an automatic emotion that comes up, which is a purging emotion, right? So you, oh my gosh, think about that. The picture of that monkey biting into a worm, that would make you want to purge, wouldn't it? It would make you want to throw up. So the thought action repertoire is that I think disgust, right? It happens, right? The thought action, right? There's a behavior, and a behavior comes right on board. Feel. And so some of these are very basic, like disgust, like anger. What's the thought action repertoire for anger? Well, think about it. When you feel angry, you want to what? Assert. Assert is what you want to do. So the thought action repertoire for anger is you get angry, you want to, or attack, right? That might be another way to attack, right? When you feel great love for somebody, what do you want to do? Give them a big hug, don't you? You want to give them a big hug. You, on your emojis, blow them kisses with hearts around. That's what you want to do. That's a thought action repertoire. When you feel love, we can't express everything that we need in an emoji. You're like, okay, well, there's a connection there. There's a thought action repertoire. I feel love, and then I send a loving emoji. What are you missing? Seriously, what are you missing? Yeah, I'm expecting an answer. What are you missing? You're missing what? I didn't hear you. The physical touch, right? The physical touch. Exactly. Whoever said it, I don't know. But the physical touch is what you're missing. And what that does is sets off chemical reactions. Now, it's not that you can't get those chemical reactions from an emoji. That's the whole reason why we keep going to our phones for those emojis or for those likes or for those pick-me-ups, right? It's why we keep going. There's a thought action repertoire right there, right? Somebody gives me a like, I go back for more, right? A thought action repertoire. I don't get them every time though, so they're intermittent. So that makes it even more addictive, right? That's a gambling mechanism right there that we studied psychologically. Intermittent rewards is what we call them. You can do a deep dive on intermittent rewards. I have a very, very poor signal right now, so I'm going to hold on here. There we go. Okay, now I have a better signal. Again, now I'm back on green, so I just wanted to hold on there because I kept, bouncing in and out. Okay, all right. So this thought action repertoire that we've got, again, with love, you can send an emoji, right? But that emoji, think about an emoji when you're angry. Covers it. Got it. Thanks. Yeah, exactly. No, of course not. Of course, an emoji for your anger would never cover it. Why do you think that emoji for your love might cover it, right? Okay, but right now we're talking about a thought action repertoire. So there are these automatic connections. And again, if I destroy those automatic connections systematically, as many of you know, there's a system going on right now. I'm not the first person who said it. I've heard it said, from if I've had contact with 1 million people, I've heard it said by 1 million people then, if I had contact, honestly, because we all know. We all know something's going on, but if we keep it isolated, we'll stop talking with one another. But you forgot about your effing internet that you need for what reason? What do you need it? For information, so you can collect this kind of data. You don't even know what to do. You're so beside yourself, right? We have to stay close to the enemy and get all the enemy's data. But now all the enemy is sending data. You know, thought action repertoire, right? So what do you connect? What associations do you make? I'm going in and out of the signal. So what connections do you make, right? What connections do you make? And then finally, or not finally, then the third one there, so that's thought action repertoire. And well, one more thing specifically about this is that we really are talking about emotions and behaviors that are so automatic we don't have to think about them. You may have some thought action repertoires that you put together, right? I go to a restaurant, I stand there and wait for the hostess. The hostess comes and seats me, and then I look at the menu. But she gives us a menu, order drinks, right? Thought action repertoire. That's one right after another, an example of one after another, which we call a script. So same idea, right? Same idea, but here you're talking about one phase that happens rather primitively, right? So that's what we're saying. Well, that's the reason for the monkey there. So it happens right away. It's written right in our chemistry. We have to react, thought action repertoire, for danger, right? So we have to have that quick thought action repertoire for danger. For example, so this can't be a slow poke mechanism is what I'm saying. And the more quickly we make that association, more quickly the thought action takes place for everybody, not just for you, but for everybody, the more basic it is. The more quickly it takes place for you, the more basic it is in you, the harder it is to change that thought action repertoire, right? But for the whole system of things as well. So on a bigger, larger scale, right? Those have your thought action repertoires, but what about thought action repertoires for all humans? Are they the same as monkeys? Are they the same as fish? These thought action repertoires, right? So does a fish feel cold and hot? It does. We know that. What else beyond that? Does it have, love for its school? A fish? I don't know. We can't ask it. Okay, and the third one there is building enduring personal resources. So let's take a close-up look of that. I don't have at my fingertips a better picture of that. So I'm sorry. I wish I did. I could find one, but it's going to take me too long. But what I will do is, because I really did mean to find you one, and I didn't. So let me, well, it's not going to work. Okay, so what are our personal resources? Our personal resources that are built with these thought action repertoires are social relationships or social resources, physical resources, psychological resources, and what's the last one? That's why I'm looking for this right now. And I can't find the, and until I was going to say cognitive resources, but no, intellectual resources. That's what they are. Okay. So over and over and over again, we create these thought action repertoires. So if I go back to the book I was talking about that I started reading, that I figured out the author of the book, Hyperbole and a Half. If I go back to that, and she asked the question about why does she do certain things, right? There is a reward for it. And she talks about the rewards for it in the book. So a very humorous way of looking at things like depression. Lots of people, I believe, can really understand what and connect to what that author is saying. That Allie Brash, I think is the name. Um, yeah, which is so interesting to me as well because she was because I was also called Brash as well when I was young, and so I don't know if that was, I'm not even sure if I'm getting her last name right, and I'm not going over there to go get the book, but yeah, so a very humorous way of taking a look at naturally occurring thought action repertoires. So, a humorous way of looking at how you develop some of these unhealthy, dysfunctional, her words, right? Those are her words. And an honest then, admitting of this, that this isn't right. Something's wrong with this. This is very dysfunctional, right? But she has made, why does she do that? Why is that her go-to? Because she's made this connection, a thought action repertoire. But in order for there to be an upward spiral, we all make these thought action repertoires. But in order for there to be an upward spiral, we need to, I've got another red for my yep, there we go. I keep getting a bad connection over here, and I don't know why, and it's just bothersome. There we go. Now I've got yeah, in and out of this bad connection. So, and then I lose my train of thought a little bit. Yeah, it's me. I'm still here. I'm still here. Um, but in order to have, I've got to get a green light over here because I know that it's not working correctly then. And I'm not getting a good signal at all. Thanks, Comcast. What the heck? Honest to gosh. Again, thanks. A critical point in this lesson, and again, I've got these demons over here that don't want to see this kind of message get out. And that is the truth. So try and work through it with me in this message and try and understand it and fight with this idea of a signal, because it does say over there that there's an excellent signal. It doesn't say here. I see I've got lots of drop frames again. So nearly 20,000 drop frames again. And I don't know why. I do have to look at my bills though. So there we go. No. So she makes these connections, but if we want an upward spiral, the connections need to be healthy connections. All right. So again, she's made these associations, right? But she finds herself wanting to lay down on the couch. I'm sorry for the person who's here for this bad connection. I don't know why I have a bad connection. And hopefully you're still getting this message over here clearly. But why are you still laying on the couch? Not the people who are here, but back to Allie and her book, Hyperbole and a Half. Why are you still laying on the couch? Well, because the thought action repertoire that you made was that in some way is rewarding. And Allie does a great job of pointing that out in that book about how she has created rewards, or she knows that she's trying to create rewards to get her away from the bad behavior. Excellent ideas. So she's got some really, really great strategies. But I apologize for this signal. It always happens during the spiritual classroom. I don't know why. Maybe there's, like I said, well, no, there's so many spirits who really are trying to being in the spiritual classroom, you know what they're trying to do. They're trying to disrupt the messages we're trying to get across. But I know that they're getting across, and I'm going to keep them coming in a lot of different ways, so that We need to make healthy thought action repertoires in order for, we all make them, but they need to be healthy in order to create this upward spiral, in order to build social resources, intellectual resources. What else did I say? Physical resources, social resources, physical resources, intellectual resources, and what was the last one there? Jeez. Psychological resources. Seriously, I don't even remember my own department. And and I keep seeing it's cutting out. 25,000 drop frames, dropping 100 frames at a time. I don't know what's going on here. But I'm going to plug through it, and hopefully you'll get the message. And because we still have 10 more minutes anyway before the class is over, and then we have the reading room. So we'll talk a little bit in the reading room. I mean, not much. We'll be reading in the reading room. Yeah, but I see this is just so choppy. Oh, yeah, well, we'll see. Okay. So let's start with physical resources. Especially we can see physical resources. Okay, so we make these thought action repertoires. What do they build? Well, they build physical resources. So maybe the thought action repertoire, it has to do with going outside and outside at recess. So we get engaged in life is what we end up doing. We end up going in from terms that we were talking about earlier. We become approach motivated instead of avoidance motivated, although we need it, right? We become approach avoidance motivated based on, well, from a spiritual classroom, the powers that be, right? Our creator. We're listening more and more to our creator. Is this a dangerous place to be? Is this a positive place to be, right? So more and more we listen to our creator, not to our animalistic behaviors, not to just our DNA, right? To our creator. And in that way, we create these positive thought action repertoires as opposed to negative ones. We can have all kinds of thought action repertoires. This happens, then this is the effect. Cause effect in scientific terms, right?